Ladies and gentlemen, before I start, I'm going to make a number of requests. Number one, please turn your mobile phones to silent. Thank you. There is no emergency that's going to happen here today, so I do request your phones are on silent. My name's Dr. Christopher Fox. I'm the Associate Secretary for the Asia-Oceania region for the World Association for Sexual Health. I also hold the position of Co-Vice Chair of the World Association for Sexual Health Sexual Rights Committee. I'm the Treasurer for the Asia-Oceania Federation of Sexology, the immediate past President of the Society of Australian Sexologists, and I am a gay man. This is not a choice, this is who I am. I found the exchange earlier insulting and disturbing. I'd like to thank Esther for her presentation. She very kindly forwarded it to me. I'd like to thank Dr. Reddy for the opportunity of speaking instead of Esther. The presentation and slides that you're going to see are based on Esther's presentation. I've made some minor changes because I don't have Esther's extensive knowledge of history and background of the World Association. So may our journey together about WAS begin. I was once trained in storytelling, and this has provided me with some great insights in how to tell a story. And all good stories begin with once upon a time, the foundation of WAS. Now, many people in Australia know me for singing through presentations, and so, of course, I'm going to start off with a song from The Sound of Music. Let's start at the very beginning. WAS was founded in Rome in 1978. At that stage, it was called the World Association for Sexology, and it was formed at the Third Congress of Sexology in Rome, Italy. The stated purpose of the World Association for Sexology was to advance international cooperation in the field of sexology by coordinating the activities of its member associations and individual members on a worldwide basis, and in other ways to promote activities designed to lead to increase research and knowledge in the field of sexology, including sex education, sexual health, and the alleviation of sexual suffering. But I think it's important that we also consider the international context that WAS was established in. It was the time of the sexual revolution. The World Association was established at the height of this revolution. I was too young to know anything about that revolution. I was only 7 years old in 1978. Sorry, everyone. So what helped shape the formation of WAS? First and foremost, we have to keep in mind that baby boomers were leading the revolutions. It was formed post the World Youth Revolution in 1968, where people were searching for democracy and freedom, and there were a number of other social situations that informed the international context. The early mission of WAS was to promote sexual health throughout the world and lifespan by developing, promoting and supporting sexology and sexual rights. So let's look at the evolution of WAS as an international organisation over 40 years. Evolve and grow, that is the task. So it began in the late 1970s, then came the 1980s and 1990s, how retro, as some would say. We have to keep in mind the HIV/AIDS pandemic of the late 80s and into the 90s, the introduction of gender as an analytic category and a political tool, and the emergence of sexuality in an international forum. These are all influencing the changing world. We also need to acknowledge the important conferences such as Vienna, the World Conference on Human Rights, which was the first time that reproductive rights were acknowledged and formed the basis for sexual rights, but also the International Conference on Population and Development and the Fourth World Congress on Women in Beijing in 1995. Without these conferences, we wouldn't be where we are today. I am shortening the presentation so we can all go to lunch. One of the things that WAS has achieved over 40 years has been international collaborations. Our road to international involvement can be said to have occurred at the 13th World Congress on Sexology in Valencia in 1997, where we had the first declaration on sexual rights. I'll return to talk about that later in the presentation. Was also collaborated with PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, and WHO to develop the first set of definitions. And from this, we get a set of definitions. The effort was underpinned by the recognition of enhanced sexuality in training and comprehensive approach to addressing sexuality problems and the re-examination of sexual health promotion practices. So let's look at these early definitions. Sex refers to the sum of biological characteristics that define the spectrum of humans as females and males. Sexuality was defined as the core dimension of being human. I'm not going to go through each of these definitions to save time. And sexual health is the experience of ongoing process of physical, psychological and socio-cultural well-being related to sexuality. As you can see, these three definitions were key in our understanding and movement towards better sexual health. In 2006, the WHO published a new set of definitions based on collaboration between WAS and WHO back in January 2002. The technical document encompassed new definitions, was about trying to inform health decision makers, policy makers and care providers to develop better ways to address sexual health needs. So our initial definition of sex was sex refers to the sum of biological characteristics that define the spectrum of humans as females and males. It then became sex refers to the biological characteristics that define humans as female or male, while these sets of biological characteristics are not mutually exclusive, as there are individuals who possess both. They tend to differentiate humans as males and females. In general use in many languages, the term sex is often used to mean sexual activity, but for technical purposes in the context of sexuality and sexual health discussion, the above definition is preferred. Sexuality was defined as the core dimension of being human, which includes sex, gender, sexual and gender identity. And it then became sexuality as a central aspect of being human throughout life and encompasses sex, gender identities and roles, sexual orientation, eroticism, pleasure, intimacy and reproduction. Sexuality is experienced and expressed in thoughts, fantasies, desires, beliefs, attitudes, values, behaviours, practices, roles and relationships. While sexuality can include all these dimensions, not all of them are always experienced or expressed. Sexuality is influenced by the interaction of the biological, psychological, social, economic, political, cultural, ethical, legal, historical, religious and spiritual factors. A much more encompassing definition. And sexual health progressed from being an experience of ongoing processes of physical, psychological and socio-cultural well-being to a state of physical, emotional and mental and social well-being in relation to sexuality. It is not merely the absence of disease, dysfunction or infirmity. It requires a positive and respectful approach to sexuality and sexual relationships, free of coercion, discrimination and violence. For sexual health to be attained and maintained, the sexual rights of all persons must be respected, protected and fulfilled. From that collaboration, we also, WHO and WAS also developed a working definition around sexual rights. Sexual rights embrace human rights that are already recognised in national laws, international human rights documents and other consensus statements. Again, for brevity of time, I'm not going through each of the statements. Another key moment in our history in the World Association was the development of sexual health for the millennium, commonly referred to as the Millennium Declaration. This project aligned the UN Millennium Development Goals to sexuality. Eli Coleman, a former WAS president and instrumental in the development of this publication, stated, "Sexuality is a fundamental aspect of being human, and that we needed to look at the rights, in order to meet the Millennium Goals, we needed to include sexuality for a healthy society. Esther Corona has also represented WAS and played a key role in forming the United Nations Population Fund's operational guidelines for comprehensive sexuality education. At the fund, Esther stated, "Sexual health requires a positive and respectful approach to sexuality and sexual relationships, as well as the possibility of having pleasurable and safe sexual experiences free of coercion, discrimination and violence." Other collaborations that the World Association has been involved with, including the World Health Organization, the International Planned Parenthood Federation, UNESCO, and of course PAHO. The World Association for Sexual Health is also very active in sexual rights, and it's important for us to remember sexual rights are human rights. The first declaration, as I stated earlier, was at the Valencia Congress in 1997. The image on the screens are of the 7 key people involved in the establishment. The Valencia Declaration reads, "We, the participants of the 13th World Congress of Sexology, declare that sexuality is a changing and dynamic dimension of humanity. It is constructed through the interaction between the individual and social structures. It is present throughout the life cycle, harmonising identity and creating or strengthening interpersonal bonds." Again, I'm not going to go through each of the initial sexual rights, but they are there on the screen. In 2014, WAS reviewed the Declaration of Sexual Rights and aligned them with the international human rights instruments like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, amongst others. This resulted in a new set, or a revised set, of sexual rights, again available on the screen. So, a little tune I learnt when I was a child in primary school, SUCCESS, that's the way you spell success, and the successes have been many. The World Association for Sexual Health established the World Sexual Health Day. It was first run in 2010. It occurs on September 4 of each year. This year the theme for World Sexual Health Day is Sexual Health and Sexual Rights, fundamental for well-being. And I encourage everybody to participate in World Sexual Health Day. If it's a gathering of 10 people, that's okay. It's about promoting sexual rights that are fundamental to sexual well-being. The World Association for Sexual Health also established the Youth Initiative. It was developed by Anton Usigli, who at the time was a 22-year-old Mexican sexual health advocate and sexologist. Today, the World Association for Sexual Health Youth Initiative Committee is co-chaired by Anton and also Stefano Alutri from Italy. The Youth Initiative is also holding an activity here tomorrow as part of the AOFS Congress. And of course, the International Journal of Sexual Health is the official journal of WAS. The editor-in-chief is Eli Coleman, our former WAS president. The times are changing. We have to move with the times. In 2005, after 27 years, WAS recrafted its mission statement. It now reads, "The World Association for Sexology promotes sexual health throughout human lifespans all over the world by developing, promoting and supporting sexology and sexual rights for all. WAS accomplishes this by advocacy networking and facilitating information exchange of ideas and experiences while concurrently advancing scientifically based sexuality research, sexuality education and clinical sexology with a transdisciplinary approach. In 2007, an historic decision was taken to change the name to the World Association for Sexual Health. The change reflected the mission of WAS adopted 2 years previously in Havana, Cuba. In changing the name, the Advisory Council stated, WAS has worked in promoting sexual health for all. And what we can see on the screen is that it's from sexology to sexual health. The World Association acknowledges that that sexology is one way that we can achieve sexual health. In applying its own promulgations, WAS has worked to develop a sense of gender equity. As can be seen in the notes on the screen from the first WAS Advisory Council, it consisted of 17 penises, or men, and only 2 vulvas, or women. And so to maximise gender equity, the WAS Congress adopted a statute to ensure a sense of gender equity. For a valid election, a gender balance of at least 60-40 is also required. I'd also like to note that I observed and reported at the 2016 AOFS Congress the gender disparity, and again will also highlight the gender disparity in our own Congress. Of course, we need to look to the future and new challenges. WAS is now working on gaining consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council under the guidance of Esther Corona. We continue to promote and advocate for sexual health and well-being through events like the World Sexual Health Day. One day it would be great to see this as an International Sexual Health Day that's accepted by the United Nations. And finally, a reminder that the 24th World Congress will be held in Mexico City in October 2019. The AOFS Council passed a motion last night asking the World Association to institute the World Bank classifications of countries for the determining of Congress attendance fees. Hopefully this is an issue we're able to get the World Association and the organising committee to take note of. I'd like to thank you for your attention for the past 20 minutes. It was a 45-minute presentation. I've cut a lot of information out, but thank you. I'd like to wish happy birthday to WAS on 40 successful years, and may we have many more successful years. Thank you.